reason for this comes down to toxins and fiber's ability to actually bind to those toxins. So let me explain. So fiber, especially those like soluble fibers that are able to form gels within our gastrointestinal system, have a very large surface area, which makes them very useful for binding up toxins. Now, as I'm sure you already know, we are exposed to a huge amount of toxins in our environment. So exogenous toxins that come from, say, the non-organic food that we're eating, even just food, if it is organic, it's exposed to toxins that are just floating around in our environment, in our air. We're exposed to toxins through our clothing, our artificial clothing, plastics that we're exposed to. Even, for example, within our home, like there might be mold spores, there might even be artificial carpets, artificial flooring, the walls have paint, all of this stuff is going to have toxins in it. And so inevitably we are going to be exposed day in, day out to toxins. We're also going to be exposed to toxins that are inevitably within our gut. So let's say, we have this huge amount of different gut bacteria, and a lot of these bacteria have these things called endotoxins. And even if you're not actually specifically targeting these bacteria with antibiotics, antimicrobials, and trying to blast them apart, these bacteria obviously have a lifespan, and so inevitably they will die after a certain period of time, and their contents will be spilled out. And inevitably we are also, in that case, exposed to a lot of endotoxins as well. And so where fiber can be really useful is it's got this high surface area which allows it to able to bind to a lot of these toxins and actually help to remove them from our body. And when we think about toxin removal, we need to think about the ways in which our body detoxifies really anything, not just toxins that we're exposed to in our environment and in our gut. But we need to think about it, of course, when we are producing hormones, for example, that are normal in our body and we want to eventually get rid of them, or even if we are taking pharmaceutical drugs, anything essentially in our body that our body wants to remove. We go through these phases of detoxification, and phase 1 and phase 2 are going to occur in our liver. So this is where our liver is going to be important, our liver health. But then phase 3 is our digestive system detoxification. And it's basically where we take the metabolites of what we have detoxified in the liver, and then we throw them into the gastrointestinal system with the bile, and that's where we're able to then eliminate them. And so where fiber is useful, as I said, is it's able to then be a binder for these toxins, where it can help us to eliminate them. Of course, as well, if we're able to produce a gel-like substance from the soluble fibers, for example, that's going to decrease our transit time and help us to push things that would have stayed within our gut, push them through a little bit faster, so that we're able to eliminate them quicker and easier. Whereas if we were to be constipated, for example, it's going to take a long time for those toxins to be able to actually get removed from our body. So it helps you with regularity. Another thing that the fibers are also able to bind are bile acids. So as you know, when we produce bile in our liver, it then gets sent to our gallbladder, and then it is able to be concentrated. And then once we've eaten a meal, we then shoot that bile out into our gastrointestinal system, and it's able to then help us to emulsify our fats, absorb the fat soluble vitamins, but then also some of that bile is then going to be removed in the stool. And so again, with those fibers, what's really interesting about them is their high surface area is going to be able to bind up some of those bile acids as well, which would have actually also helped to remove the toxins, because bile acids are also very good at binding toxins. So if we can bind up the bile acids that are also bound to those toxins, we're able to also have another way of eliminating them from our body. So certainly, as I said, I will reiterate that there are certain people that are able to do pretty well without any fiber in their diet. But certainly if you are known to be exposed to certain things, let's say that you're dealing with mold, or maybe you know that you're not being very careful about what you're exposed to in your environment, your clothing is all synthetic, things like that, certainly having a little bit more fiber in your diet can be really, really useful. The last thing I want to say as well is obviously fiber is a prebiotic food, and so that way it allows our gut bacteria to have something to feed on, and this is a really great way of proliferating the really nice healthy bacteria and also helping them to produce some really you know, healthful things like short chain fatty acids that are going to be really anti-inflammatory. So anyway, if you find that interesting, let me know. And if you have any questions, let me know.